parse through the most crucial moments of the trading day, which today, guys, is options expiring and the volatility around the closing bell.
I was just going to say the most interested is really kind of what's just happening in the last couple of minutes. Tim and I were just talking about a different story going back and forth. The market was in the red when we started. When we looked again, all of a sudden we see some slight gains here, Tim, on the major equity averages.
But I actually think this is important, at least according to one superlative, because had we stayed in the red today and had a down week on the S&P 500 and on the NASDAQ 100, it would be 5 straight weeks of decline for those two indices. It'd be the longest losing streak going all the way back to May of 2022. And that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, we broke the streak, so it does feel like maybe we might have reached the bottom for now. No one's saying that we're off to the races yet. We could be in this rolling recovery for a number of months. Everyone's saying it's going to be a rocky first half and things will start to settle down in the second half of the year.
Well, also, if you look at kind of what is outperforming like technology, that was what was beaten up the most. So then do you look at it as more of a short covering and positioning versus any sort of change in the macro environment?
Yeah, listen, when it comes to the macro, I feel like there's one word that we care about, and that's tariffs, whether or not we're going to see, more in terms of coming out of the White House. So that's one of the things I'm thinking a lot about right now.
All right, we're cheering. We're getting there. Closing bell, real close. We made it through this week on a definite up note. We're taking a look at the S&P, still settling out, but looks to end relatively flat on the day. Same thing with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The NASDAQ outperforming, like I mentioned, up by about 0.5%. And just take a look at the Russell 2000 to see if that rally has spread a little bit. Not so much. The Russell's actually down by 0.5%. So it's not a very generous rally. It is still tech-driven.
Yeah, right. Exactly. S&P 500, guys, 349 names losing ground in the Friday session, 154 Scarlet to the upside.
And as Alex mentioned, big cap tech really driving some of the advances today, this late rally. And you see that reflected in the IMAP. The biggest sectors that are in the green, mainly the only ones, are communication services, consumer discretionary, and infotech. Those are where the Mag 7 names live. Everything else is in the red. In fact, real estate down 1%, materials down 1%, utilities off by 2/3%.
All right, a lot of red there. No, actually, a lot of green. Well, kind of a mixed bag, but a little bit more green there. Hey,
green by weight, red by number of sectors.
Thank you very much. Good. Hey, listen, in terms of individual gainers, Boeing on that list, it was up as much as 6% at its highs today, finishing with a 3% gain. It was among the top gainers in the S&P 500. The company winning a contract to design and build the U.S.'s next generation fighter jet, beating out rival Lockheed Martin for what is a multi-billion-dollar program. We did see the president announce that decision earlier today at the White House along with the U.S. Defense Secretary. All right, Tesla, also number 2 gainer in the S&P 500. I believe it's the number 1 gainer here at the close in the NASDAQ 100. Couple things going on. Elon did hold an all-hands meeting to reassure Tesla employees about the company's shares plummeting over 50% in the last 3 months. He reiterated his claim that Teslas will soon be capable of driving autonomously with a software update. He also mentioned the launch of a new, more affordable model in the first half of the year. He offered little detail, though, about those vehicles. I do also want to point out, too, that retail investors seem to be individual investors buying a lot of Tesla shares for 13 straight sessions, pumping about $8 billion into the stock, despite the stock heading lower. So a few dynamics going on there. And then I'm just going to be really quick with this one. Luminar Technology is something different. It's a small cap, micro cap company, up about 32% here. It makes sensors for automobiles, posted fourth quarter revenue that topped estimates, and provided guidance for this year, including guidance for revenue growth of as much as 20%. Keep in mind, about 33% of the float is shorted, but nonetheless, super outperformance. And again, it's a micro cap.
Okay, a few stocks that we've been talking about quite a bit today. Important ones to note for their declines. Nike shares falling by 5.5%. The company did say it expects revenue and profitability to decline further. Gross margins dropping sharply in the current quarter. This due to U.S. tariffs on products from China and Mexico. Some questions about Nike's turnaround efforts and the challenges there because of inventory clearance and the impact of the growing trade war. Nike shares down 5.5%. FedEx also down after reporting earnings after the bell yesterday, 6.5% to the downside. The company lowered its full year guidance for the 3rd consecutive quarter. It cited inflation and uncertain demand for shipments. The latest outlook assumes the global economic, political, and trade environment doesn't worsen any further, and that it's making progress on its plan to spin off its freight division as a separate publicly traded company. And you heard Carol talk about Boeing as one of the gainers today because of that award from the White House. Lockheed Martin down 5.8%. This after Boeing won that contract to design and build the U.S.'s next generation fighter jet. This award caps more than 2 years of competition between the defense giants for the full-scale development of the next gen air dominance manned fighter. It's going to replace the F-22 Raptor. It's envisioned to operate alongside drones. Those are being developed, though, as part of a separate program. Once again, Lockheed shares down 5.8%.
It's a very dramatic move. I feel like it's also broader uncertainty, obviously, in terms of money as well. All right, bond market. Snooze fest. It was also whippy around the equity market as well. So at one point we saw some nice buying as equities were selling off. Obviously that reversed with the long end selling off a little bit. And just for your preview, $183 billion worth of issuance comes next week in 2 and 5 and 7-year notes. So put it on your calendar.
All right, we certainly will. Hey, one of the things that was certainly of note today, we did see FCC Chair Brendan Carr making some comments and interviews about how it is getting ready or prepared to block M&A deals and proposals from companies that promote invidious, that was his word, DEI policies. Well, another story related, or that at least caught our attention, JP Morgan renaming its DEI program to DOI following political backlash. And so rather than diversity, equity, and inclusion, it now stands for diversity, opportunity, and inclusion, Tim.
Okay, so Jen Piepzak saying, she's COO, she said that in a memo to staff that it's because the E always meant equal opportunity to us, not equal outcomes. And we believe it more accurately reflects our ongoing approach to reach the most customers and clients to grow our business. It does raise the question, though, about what companies are doing in the face of all this criticism, not just from the Trump administration, but from outside groups as well. Because it looks like there could be serious consequences for companies that do have DEI policies. If a company does want to still keep these policies in place, do they just change the name? Do they change the meaning of them? I think there are a lot of questions here still.
Or they dismantle the most obvious parts of their infrastructure and continue to, enact not policies, but customs maybe that go with what they had planned. It's an open question. It's all open to interpretation. And that's the thing. When you remove the infrastructure, it all depends on personnel, doesn't it?
Well, also, I guess the question is it just the language and the framing, but the internal policies and external policies may be the same way that there were still sort of inclusive ways that companies were looking to deal with vendors, for example. They wanted to have diversity within vendors. That was already there. It was just the language and how it was used was a little bit different. And is that the part that's changing?
Well, no one's going to come on TV to talk about it, that's for sure.
I will say they did say that their employee groups are going to continue to focus on engagement, cultural celebrations, education, historical observances, and they plan to reduce trainings while maintaining a focus on high-quality offerings, at least according to their memo. So I guess we'll wait to hear a little bit more about that as well.
The other story that caught my eye, and I don't know if any of you have gone to London recently.
Not today.
Not today.
I don't think anyone.
A lot of people did.
Really tried, who were trying to get there, got there.
Too soon.
Yeah, well,
Too soon.
that's a good point. But in general, it's become Europe's mobile phone theft capital of the world, or at least within that region. 70,095 recorded thefts in a year. A lot of people on electric bikes will zoom by and take your phone, and they can sell it on the black market or the gray market for like $1,500.
But is it like in your bag or like in your hand?
You're
and they get
on
it?
their phone, you're kind of looking at it, you're not paying attention, and someone grabs it.
But I thought like the whole, anti-theft stuff that phones have where it's like auto locking, you have to have Face ID and control over. I thought these things you could lock them remotely and just not even allow, and that deterred thefts. That's obviously not working.
Yeah, but you could strip it for parts. Break it apart and sell the stuff inside.
Ooh, apparently Westminster guys.
Sounds like you know what you're doing, Scarlett.
She does. It's her side
I've
gig.
just read a lot of stuff.
But guys, Westminster.
Keep my phone away from you.
The Westminster, where it has like all the high-end shopping, right, and the entertainment areas, that's apparently the worst area where you have the most phone thefts.
I will say my daughter spent a year over there going to school, and she was like, don't leave your phone out. Don't be so on it. So there was a little bit of a warning when we were overseas a little bit. So
you need one of those things, like the fanny pack, but for your phone.
Yeah, or maybe like get off our phones.
Yeah, don't walk and look at your phone at the same time.
Some people were just busy, okay? Spelling bee doesn't work on its own, all right? You got to put some effort into that.
Guilty as charged. All right, guys, have a great weekend. That is a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We call it Beyond the Bell. We'll see you again. Actually, don't we call it the closing bell? I don't know. We change it sometimes. Anyway, thank God it's Friday. I will see you guys on Monday. We will see you on Monday.